Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to a meeting of your City Council here in City Hall. We are on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2006, meeting in City Hall Council Chambers, John Ferraro Council Chambers in room 340 of Los Angeles City Hall. We invite members of the public down here to give public comment on our general public comment or also on items which have been agendized to hear public comment. And you can read those agendas for our meetings at www.lacity.org, our city's homepage, where there's a wealth of information about your government, about our city departments, and about all the elected officials that are part of the City of Los Angeles. You can also pick up the agendas from the City Clerk's office here in City Hall as well. If you live closer to Van Nuys, you can always testify via remote through our Van Nuys City Hall, where we meet the first Friday of the month, including this Friday, where we will be at 10 a.m. All of the meetings we hold here at City Hall. We're broadcast live on Channel 35, LA City View, which is seen throughout the city's cable system, and we are rebroadcast in the evening, as well as webcast through, again, our city's homepage at www.lacity.org. You can also call in for audio of this council meeting or any of our committee meetings through Council Phone, which is available at 213-621-CITY. With that, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Gruel, Han, Weezer, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Sign, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Great, we have a quorum. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Smith seconds. If there's no objection, they'll be unanimously approved. Next order, please.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Ms. Han moves and Mr. Parks seconds. If there's no objection, that too will be unanimously approved.
And, Mr. President, this is Tuesday, and there is the flag salute that's agendized.
All right. Mr. Parks, would you be kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise as we salute the flag. Thank you.
Would everyone stand, face the flag, place your hand over your heart, and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, this is the time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
Okay, we'd like general public comment. 2 minutes of speaker, please. Michael Carrion is our first speaker. Then we'll go out to Van Nuys for Bruce Darien, and then Nadine Diaz will be our third speaker. Welcome, Mr. Carrion.
Yes, my name is Michael Carrion, and I'm here to speak on two different issues. Ms. Han, you keep speaking about raising the tickets, prices for the tickets. Right across the street, or excuse me, Ms. Gruel, right across the street, your city general services police are not ticketing the E-plates. They're giving them courtesy notice still. We've had this conversation for the past 6 months. They're still giving them courtesy notices. Where does it say in that thing that they are exempt from tickets? Why aren't they ticketing them? If you park there, you're ticketed, period. No courtesy notices. And they say it comes from City Council. There is, I called Sergeant Lopez. He said he's not going to ticket them. So if you're going to raise the tickets, if you're going to raise the price of tickets, do it across the board evenly. If a city employee parks there, cite him. Make him pay for the same violation that Bob Smith and everybody else does. It states media parking only. E-plates are not exempt. Okay? They will be cited, but they're not. They're getting courtesy notices. It's ridiculous. It's not fair. Okay? Mr. Reyes is not here. I've spoken to his office several times about getting the new Belmont High School, or whatever they changed it to, the weed abatement done. His office has had this for 2.5 months. Weed abatement has not been done. In District 1, there's 17 and 18 are in REAP. District 9, 19, number 19 on the menu on the thing is in REAP. Mr. Weezer, your district has one in REAP. 21 is in District 15, but yet Belmont High School is exempt. If you got a large entity like that, they should all be cleaning up their mess. It's not right that the city has to deal with this, that the residents of the city have to deal with this.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion. Mr. Bruce Darien out in Van Nuys is our next speaker. Welcome, Mr. Darien. Hold tight one moment. We're just connecting with Van Nuys. And if we're still awaiting connection? Okay, we'll wait. Hold on one second, Mr. Darian. We'll return to you as soon as we have that connection solidified. Nadine Diaz is our next speaker here in Council Chambers. Welcome, Ms. Diaz.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Nadine Diaz, and I'm an Associate Clinical Social Worker and an MSW at the Los Angeles Mission Community Clinic. And I'm here to provide input on the homeless issue. I work with the LA Mission Community Outreach Street organization to serve the homeless that are actually living in the streets, such as Wall Street, Crocker, Maple, Town, Stratford. Our job every morning from 6:30 to 5 p.m., 6:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., is to provide medical services to the homeless who are living in the streets. And we actually walk the streets to serve the community. Our organization and our committee is the only committee on Skid Row that does and provides these type of services. We have a research team and a committee team of doctors, nurses, social workers who actually talk to the homeless. And I would like to share with you that I have been monitoring the hearings that have been taking place here. And I would like to emphasize that not every homeless person is a drug addict. We have families, children, seniors, young people who are duly diagnosed, schizophrenic, bipolar. Some have lost their jobs and can't afford to feed their families. And unfortunately, they end up on our streets in the city of Los Angeles. I would like to urge and implore all of you to work with our clinic and to try to alleviate some of the problems and create positive, proactive solutions to ending the atrocity that is happening on Skid Row. Please work with us, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Diaz. Thank you for your work. Are we still waiting, Van Nuys? Okay, let's continue here then. Sofia Quinones. Welcome, Ms. Quinones. Please, you have 2 minutes. Welcome to council.
Buenos dias. I'm here to also speak on the issue of what's happening in the city of Los Angeles, and I had to come down to say that I'm appalled to find out that the LAPD can systematically say we're going to put 50 officers in one area of the city, as far as I'm concerned, to arrest homeless people. I think it's racial profiling, poverty profiling, and it's not a solution that's going to deal with poverty, and that's extremely violent. I think what the LAPD is doing is violent. I think the mayor making an agreement with the ACLU was mind-blowing to say that they would allow people to be attacked after 6 a.m. That's outrageous. I mean, when I heard that, I said, oh my God, he's doing the same thing that George Bush is doing, violating the Constitution, abusing his authority. The police abusing their authority. I felt like it was going to be a Gestapo going down Skid Row and just arresting people. I mean, you have the power, you're the city council. I believe the actions that are taking place right now are fascist. I think if, the court said you can't arrest somebody because they're poor. You have to build shelters. And another thing, I don't know, I think all of you are very, we're all privileged. If you've ever lived, or if you know someone that has had AIDS, you need hope. You turn to drugs, you become an alcoholic, you become a drug addict because you know you have a death sentence. That's only one of the diseases that is, inflicting people in this area of the city. You have women that are diagnosed with cancer as well. You have people come here testifying last week saying that The tents were an issue. My last comment is,
Thank you.
there are women that sleep in tents because they don't want to be raped at night.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
not
Quinones.
everybody in those tents, are using drugs.
Thank you.
So
We appreciate your comments
I'm
today.
hoping that the city council demand that
Thank you.
the chief of police, Bratton,
That's your time. I'm sorry.
know,
Thank you, Ms. Quinones. We have
not
to try to
abuse his authority
use-
like he did in New York.
Our next speaker is Leonard Shapiro. Mr. Shapiro? Leonard Shapiro? I see him. Are you ready, Mr. Shapiro? You're up. Come on forward. Welcome to City Council Chambers. Good to have you back. You have 2 minutes, sir.
My name is Leonard Shapiro. Mr. Weston gave me a title of the King of the Gadflies, and I'm here a little late because the traffic is horrendous. I want to talk on a subject that I hope someday some of you get caught this short. I believe that there's important events occurring in the United States that this city council has to participate in. I believe that, for example, that the use of torture, as defined by the Geneva Convention, should never be used by any forces or agency of the United States. And I understand that our enemies and other governments in the world still use barbaric and savage methods of interrogation, but I believe that we must never surrender to their example, as we are citizens of the United States. And I always was proud to be an American. When people said, when I served 5 years in the service, "Are you an American?" Yes, I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American. We're all for what's good in humanity, and all that's good at human life. And I believe that this city council should condemn all uses of methods that violate international law embodied in the Geneva Convention as well as the U.S. Constitution. And I petition the City Council to use all its powers to notify officials in Washington, D.C., that they will not tolerate the blackening of our history and our present condition of war overseas. Torture is un-American, and it must be stopped in all forms immediately. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shapiro. Appreciate your testimony today. Thank you. We have been informed that in Van Nuys, Mr. Darien is not there, so we will close public comment, and we will run through the agenda. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
First items on the agenda, Mr. President, are items noticed for public hearings. Items 1 through 6 are street lighting districts, and the recommendation for council action would be to open the hearings and continue the hearings and ordinances to October 24th.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the public hearings on items 1 through 6, and if there's no objection, we'll continue those until the 24th of this month. Next item?
Next item is also an item noticed for public hearing. It's a Sunset and Vine Business Improvement District, and I believe there are cards on that item.
Yes, let's call that special for the cards.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held, items 8 through 15. Item number 8 is a commissioner, and the committee met on that this morning, and I don't believe the committee report has been submitted as yet.
Okay, I know the committee did support the nomination, but we'll call that special as well. Other special, let's go through the next items.
Then that would leave before council 9 through 15.
Okay. Colleagues, any specials, items 9 through 15? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those will be passed except for number 9, which is an ordinance that will be carried over. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 16 through 52. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, let's open and close the public hearings for those. Colleagues, any specials? Items 16 through 52? Seeing none, let's open the roll. Okay, hold on one sec. Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are all approved except 16, which is also an ordinance and will carry over. Next items, please.
Next items on the supplemental agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 53 and 54, 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, I do not see any cards, so we'll open and close the public hearing on those items. Colleagues, anybody wishing to call 53 or 54 special? It's on the continuation agenda. Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items?
That would take council back to the items called special. There is a commissioner, and also there is a public hearing on item number 7.
Okay, let's take the commissioner, and then we'll take the item number 7. So if I can ask Mr. Cosmo to come forward to the table here. And
Mr. President, could I have
Yes.
forthwith on number 9?
number 9,
the
we
ordinance?
can't because it was carried over. It's an ordinance. So it will have to
Okay,
come back
good.
for a second reading.
Okay, all right.
All right. And I know we had in committee Mr. Cosmont here this morning, and wanted to thank him for putting himself forward for service and see if he had anything that he'd like to tell the entire council about his desire to serve on the Industrial Development Authority. Mr. Cosmont.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Pleased to be here this morning. Just briefly, as I've come to know all of you and you've come to know me, we're all interested in generating opportunities in Los Angeles. I think the Industrial Development Authority can play a very important role in creating opportunities for high-paying jobs in the city. I hope to bring my experience in both public finance, real estate, and investment to this committee and move forward on a number of initiatives that expand the number of loans and bond issues that are available to support small and medium-sized businesses, thereby resulting in more quality jobs in this community. Thank you for considering this application.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I want to thank Larry for his stepping up to the plate. I've known him since the early 90s. On some occasions, we've been on the same side of the issue, on others on the opposite end, and that's healthy. But I do have a question because I respect your experience, your role, and the voice you give into the industry and the market, quite frankly. But the question I have is that the city is going through changes. We have housing emerging in industrial lands. You have the IDA, it has bonds, it has resources. We have this notion of mixed use, mixed income. I'm fairly familiar where you stood on inclusionary zoning when we made a run at it a year or so ago. We are now at a point where working folks, people who are working 2 jobs but maybe making at the high end 30, 40,000 a year with those 2 jobs, how do you see leveraging what the IDA can do when you see these changes occurring in these industrial areas that are heavily populated with residencies, and looking at their income levels? How do you see us leveraging and looking at the whole notion of accessibility? Because true, we're building new schools, we're building new parks, we're resurfacing streets, but the end result is a good one in that property values go up. But we reached a point where now displacing and making whole families and the middle class essentially homeless in some degree. And we're talking middle class, firefighters, teachers, counselors. From your perspective, I believe the city is at a crossroads. Can you give me your perspective on these dynamics and your role in the IDA in addressing these types of issues? I'm throwing a bomb at you, but I know you're good at dancing, so I appreciate that. Please hold my time.
Thank you very much. My perspective is that the sign of a healthy community starts with a healthy and vigorous job. There is no real economic prosperity unless families have good and strong employment. And what one of Los Angeles' greatest challenges is to retain and expand its middle and working class. And it can only do that if it offers quality job opportunities. There are other things it has to do to engender that, but one certainly is to reinforce the ability for small and medium-sized businesses to make investments in this community rather than look elsewhere. And that's a combination of smart and intelligent zoning processes, a helpful hand at City Hall, a reasonable tax policy, and targeted incentives that really support private investment which yields good jobs. And the IDA is one place where we can bring public financing in a public-private partnership for businesses that aren't big ones. These are small and medium-sized businesses, but these are the companies that are generating the quality jobs today. We no longer look at large manufacturers as a mainstay in Los Angeles for many reasons. We cannot do that. We no longer look even at major corporations as the primary source of new and quality jobs. The strength of our backbone will come from these small and medium companies that are growing and willing to stay. The IDA can support that effort by, one, making it simple and accessible for these companies to take out and qualify for these industrial development bonds, using them for investment in real estate and equipment. And secondly, to accomplish that process swiftly. One of the things that already concerns me as a professional in the public finance business, I note that it takes us longer in Los Angeles to process IDA bonds than other competing IDA authorities. We have to change that. We must make this IDA authority as good or the best in the state so that companies that are here keep their money here, invest here, and use our processes to their best benefit.
Again, I know that as a consultant, as an entrepreneur, as an expert in your field, that you can bring some of these changes in our policy to make it much more efficient, make our turnaround period much quicker, and hopefully LA a more desirable place to invest. So I appreciate your hard work. I still think we have a long way to go as we connect the small business, medium-sized business issue to where we're allowing our folks in our communities to live. And I think that's what makes a healthy city as well. So again, I appreciate your insight, and thank you for answering that question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Our next speaker is Mr. Parks. Mr. Parks?
Good morning. I just want to thank you for, as busy as you are, putting yourself forward on this commission, and also thank you for accepting a position on the task force recently created by myself and Mr. Wesson. And what I'd like to see is if you comment on, with your recently published study on LA being one of the most expensive cities to do business, and then this particular commission assignment and the task force, what do you see as some of the things that we really should be concentrating on to make LA a more viable and attractive city for businesses?
Thank you, Councilman Parks. Los Angeles, as you know, we've rated Los Angeles as a city compared to over 400 cities throughout the United States over the past 12 years in that Cosmont-Rose survey. We undoubtedly are a very expensive city. We don't need to be, in my opinion. I think that one of the efforts that we can bring to bear, I think using your committee, Mr. Parks, and also the IDA and of course the City Council, is A, to relook at why and how much we're charging businesses in terms of business tax. I know we've just been through that process, but we really need to focus on a way to target taxation in a manner that supports job generation. We're still not doing that. Secondly, businesses that come to LA City Hall need to understand how it works, and they need to know that there's a friendly face here. And I think this administration is trying to get there, but there is a path to follow that many other communities have followed. When cities are good at economic development, it's very easy to recognize. And right now, Los Angeles is not recognized as a city that's competitive in economic development terms. It has to get there. And so my suggestion to the City Council is to do exactly, I think, what this committee that Mr. Parks is working on, and that is to put economic development number 1, 2, or 3 on your agenda. If you all had to pick what was most important to you, could you all say, or could a majority of you say, that economic development is in the top 3? If you can't say that, then the message you send is precisely that message, that it's not, and the businesses will continue to see it as a challenge here. But once you as leaders decide that economic development is in your top 3, then you can start moving forward with a comprehensive program so that every employee and every representative of the city that wakes up every morning understands that enticing business investment and making it easier and more facilitated for businesses to stay and expand here is a mission, a core mission of the city. That's the place to start. And then we can work on this technically and knock down the issues that actually reinforce that message.
Okay. Let me ask you, you've dealt with a lot of business, studied a lot of things. What are some of the reasons that business tell you that they either will not come to LA, they leave LA, or they will not expand in LA?
Some of the things are not the fault of the city. The first thing they'll say is that, of course, land is costly and scarce here, and we can't compete with the Inland Empire. But a very common complaint is the business license tax is onerous on many companies that are growing quickly. And another comment is that it's not easy to get procedural approvals in Los Angeles for expansions or for tenancy. And that's what I'm talking about, having a place to go in City Hall. You need really, in my opinion, every city that's competitive in economic development, and we serve many in our consulting company, they have a one-stop, they have a place to go, they have an ombudsman program, they have a series of policies that are really geared at making a company's visit in City Hall simple, straightforward, and expeditious. That's how you get jobs. That's how you lay out a welcome mat, and that's how you close on the capture of private investment.
You mentioned earlier in your comments about what kind of transition we've gone through as businesses in the city, and I think you made a comment, or it was discussed at the last task force meeting, on this whole issue of industrial land and whether the city has dealt with that appropriately. Is there sufficient industrial land in the city to attract these major manufacturers, or is that well beyond our current future to be looking at those businesses to be viable in the city?
You know, the issue of industrial land is not one that I've really publicly discussed, but I would say this. My observation is that we may be chasing the wrong candidate. The companies that are looking to move here are not the same companies that were looking for large manufacturing space in the 80s or 90s. Our growth is from smaller companies and companies that actually can use quasi-office buildings, upgraded industrial buildings in a manner that our zoning really isn't looking at. Here's what I suggest on industrial buildings. Rather than lament we're losing them, why not inventory the true industrial needs of these commercial tenants that are looking here and see if we can construct zoning issues and rehabilitation programs that can take the existing structures that we have in Los Angeles and allow them to convert to useful structures that they need. The businesses that we're looking at in Los Angeles today need some combination of office, delivery, warehouse. They're not about one big 100,000 square foot truck bay to truck bay business. That's an Ontario business. An LA business is a different business, and we've never looked at the land and inventoried the buildings in a manner that matches the desires of the customers that we're trying to support. And until we do that, we're going to be shooting in the dark in the discussion on industrial policy.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we look forward to you working not only in this commission, but also with the task force and bringing forth a number of those ideas and hopefully some solutions down the road.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. Mr. Weston, Chair, would you like to say anything from the Housing and Community Economic Development Committee about the nomination?
Well, thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I just want to say how personally I'm excited about this appointment, having known Larry for close to about 9 years. And it's just, I mean, it's the candor that you receive from him. It's the research that he's done. And I think that he's the type of individual that I use the phrase operative. And I think that we need operatives, individuals helping us so that we can take this great city and make it a greater city. So again, I'm excited about the appointment and look forward to dialoguing with you in the future as the chair of HCED. I'm sure that there are some suggestions that you can share with me. So I look forward to having a long and prosperous relationship and would request that everyone unanimously support this endorsement. I mean, this appointment.
Yeah, we're going to run the call.
Thank you, Mr. Weston. Mr. Rosendahl.
I'm coming back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me, How do you function in that group? Explain the group to me as a layman.
The IDA, the function of the IDA is to allow the city to have a tax-exempt authority, a financing authority, which collects applications from businesses or qualifying nonprofits for certain tax-exempt programs. One would be the investment in real estate or equipment under the amount of $10 million. The ability that the IDA brings to those businesses is to achieve a tax-exempt financing rate, which is better than a normal market rate that they would experience. It
And when they
gives
get
them an
that
edge.
tax-exempt rate, how does that impact us for the common good? Explain that.
The best thing about it is it allows more private investment dollars to come to the fore. The less interest cost that a business has to spend, the more direct investment it can make in things like equipment or facilities or employees.
Beautiful. Does it have any role to the challenge we have for more housing in the city?
Well, it can. There are a number of nonprofits and businesses that can utilize tax-exempt financing to expand facilities, hospitals, also small businesses, medium-sized businesses. And in doing so, you create a better opportunity for employment. Every time you create a better environment for employment, for better paid jobs, then you support and enhance the ability for constituents to afford housing. And that's how you keep the fabric of your middle class together. Without core middle-level jobs, a community cannot grow and thrive. And that's what this program is aimed at.
Sounds very good. Take it a step further. The mayor's put $100 million in housing for homelessness. The city has a measure that we hope that people vote for. That's a $1 billion housing measure.
Right.
We have a housing trust fund. Explain your relationship with those concepts.
The relationship is simple. The eligibility to live in those households requires, even though they are affordable, or even low to moderate residential units, in Los Angeles, the cost of living is such that it requires a job that pays between $40,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year to support the mortgage, even for a quote-unquote affordable unit that's supported by the housing fund. These jobs that are supported through IDA programs are the backbone to mortgage payments for those units. It's okay to be out there and support low-income housing, affordable housing, workforce housing, but it doesn't work unless you're supporting it for citizens that have an economic vest in the community, and that is the support of a quality job that they're not going to leave in 2 years, that they won't have any advancement from, and they won't become a staple to our community.
I'm smiling because my district, the 11th district, the coastal district, has a lot more jobs than it does housing. We're in total gridlock every single day, coming and going in every direction. It's horrific for us residents there. How can you see housing coming there or supporting the housing we exist so we can keep our workforce that are schlepping into my district living there? Any vision on that?
Yes, I'd really like to see the West Side. I live in the West Side, though not in your district. I'm in Jack's district. I think the West Side has an opportunity to bring live-work housing to the bear. I mean, the space is so short in the West Side, and many of the growth companies, even though they're larger on the West Side, there's still many small companies and entrepreneurial companies. I think we need mixed use on the West Side. We need to see live-work programs. You have boulevards like Pico that cry out for really a remixing of uses, and I think that should happen. And frankly, programs like IDA can help that because they fund the expansion of the kinds of companies that can fit on these smaller lots.
What's your take on condo conversions and Ellis Acts in relationship to that?
Well, my take on condo conversions is that we need to be careful about what housing product we have, and we have to evaluate both the availability of rental homes against the conversion of those homes into ownership. There is a delicate balance here. No city the size of Los Angeles can be without a reasonable reservoir of affordable rental, as well as a reasonable reservoir of first-time buyer product. And what I'm seeing is that the marketplace has moved very quickly and has supported the conversion of units. And while obviously I don't support a moratorium on the issue, I do support a very significant and immediate look by the city at how it can make sure that the balance of conversions and the balance of units that are rental can be maintained in the city. And that takes a little foresight. It shouldn't be a matter of reaction, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. I do have a condo conversion moratorium
Yes, I know
proposal.
you do.
And it's basically a survival aspect. 50% of my
Mr.
constituents are tenants, and they're threatened by this.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. And our last speaker, Mr. Zine.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think your wife's a commissioner.
Yes, she is.
Doing a fine job.
Yes.
Keeping the family.
And I think she has seniority in the household at this point.
Yes, she does. She does, I'm sure. A couple questions on your previous experience doing a lot of reports on the police department. Have you found that they've carried through, they followed through with those reports when it comes to some of the programs? And I got some other issues that I want to discuss regarding industrial.
No,
And we should keep the questions to the IDA,
right,
just the way it's agendized.
Well,
just
I mean,
remind all
the
members.
time and the energy that you've expended over the years putting together comprehensive reports to see that completed project go forward for implementation. And then I want to ask a couple questions on this.
Well, I think the police department has made progress in terms of some of the physical structures. They're costing a lot of money, of course. That's always a little bit discouraging, but that's the reality. I'm not familiar enough with how well the department has done in looking at some of the smaller neighborhood-oriented facilities that we talked about implementing years ago. I just have not followed that issue.
I know you're well-versed in operations of the city in a variety of functions. When it comes to this, Ventura County, Mr. Rosendahl mentioned the jobs housing. We see a lot of traffic going into Ventura County every day. Do we work with the region around Los Angeles, or is it just strictly Los Angeles? Do we try to work with our partners in this region to try and develop some comprehensive programs, or is it just isolated for the city of LA? Question of Warner Center. It's supposed to be a balanced job housing. Only 20% of the people who work in Warner Center can afford to live there, which is a huge problem. There's a lot of opportunities for employment, but people have to commute in from other parts of Los Angeles. And today, the freeways were a total disaster. We want to get them closer. Do you find us working in a larger scope, or is it just isolated within the Los Angeles metropolitan area, or are we working with our neighbors surrounding other communities?
You know, I think it's hit and miss. My sense from watching Los Angeles and from working in many of the other neighboring communities as well is that Los Angeles is pretty focused on Los Angeles. It has been that way. Now, we are the regional provider, though, and so there are dialogues with other communities on issues related to transportation and policing and those kinds of services. But in general, Los Angeles has been the centerpiece of this county, and it has acted more inwardly than outwardly. And I'm not sure, frankly, that the other cities focus on their relationship with LA in any meaningful way. I view the other cities that surround Los Angeles as finding LA a place that they can easily poach businesses from and be competitive with, and I find that unfortunate. Los Angeles needs to do something about its ability to fend for itself in comparison to places like Burbank and some of the adjacent communities.
So when we develop this industrial development, we want to, the ultimate goal, I understand, is to bring a balance where we have the jobs, where we have the housing, where we can keep things in a focus which affects transportation, which affects the quality of life throughout this area.
Correct.
Maybe we need to branch out with some of our neighbors, because I know the 101 freeway, for example, where I travel eastbound, there's a tremendous amount of traffic every day going northbound into Ventura County, people living in this region. And maybe we could have some balance to take some of those positions and cluster them and to say, well, Burbank, you can have this, LA has this, so the people who are on the job market will have a shorter distance to travel.
I would like that. I think, to me, it's a little bit more utopian than can be. The reality is that places like Burbank and the City of Commerce and other cities that on the periphery of this great city really try and attract as much business as they can and as many retailers as they can in their border at the expense of Los Angeles. And to me, the greatest strength that Los Angeles brings, it's a name brand, it's a senior level city, but it's a city that has forgotten, in my estimation, how to be competitive, and it needs to go toe-to-toe with these communities, and that's going to take that comprehensive economic development approach that I suggested. And I don't think that ever happens, and I really urge the City Council to take this on unless each one of you really state publicly that economic development is one of your highest priorities. You need to send that clear message, and then you need to reinforce policies that support that.
But clearly, the concern I have is it affects the business environment, it affects the commuter
Yes.
throughout this region. Many of us sit on SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments. We try to do it on a regional level, but what we find is the traffic getting worse, which affects the delivery, which affects the employees, which affects the quality of life, which affects responsive emergency vehicles. And if we could somehow have a little balance, we won't have to have those long commutes. And we talk about affordability. We have thousands of jobs in Warner Center. We have thousands of units of residential, but the people working there can't afford it, and they're clogging the roads coming back and forth. So it's a comprehensive program that has to be developed. Clearly, they come to where the jobs are, they travel to the businesses, and if we can do some more of that, in the downtown area, for example, what we see is all the old office buildings being converted to lofts and condos. Where those folks are going to go that have those businesses
Mr.
there, I don't
Zahn.
know. But I know you've got a task at hand.
I want to remind folks that the
The
Industrial Development
reputation shows
Authority.
you can get it done, and he's cutting me off because he's the president. I respect the position of president,
Thank you,
future
Mr. Zahn.
commander of the United States Navy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, and I just I'll recognize the city attorney to reiterate.
And just to
what's
remind
before us.
council members, this agenda item is related to the appointment of Mr. Cosma to the Industrial Development Authority. The conversation and discussion seems to have gotten afield of that.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Ms. Hahn and Ms. Gruhl, join the queue.
Pressure to stay on subject. Thank you. Well, first of all, I rise to support the appointment of Larry. I think you're a perfect example of who should be sitting on this authority. You bring a tremendous wealth of experience and an interesting perspective in terms of all the work you've done. First question I have is, particularly, your vision of kind of what we should be doing in the city of Los Angeles to attract industry and create jobs. What is the relationship between the IDA and our Community Redevelopment Agency?
Well,
Hold my time.
I would think that since the IDA is eligible to approve bonds for companies locating in and out of the redevelopment agency, there ought to be a close working relationship. I think I'll find that out in all earnestness. I don't really understand if there is a close working relationship, but it'd be my motivation as a former redevelopment director to get that going.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. When I'm listening to you talk, and sometimes in the city there's a lot of disconnect between we have a lot of resources, we have a lot of talent in the city, but sometimes it seems like we're disconnected. So I'm encouraged because I think that's exactly the relationship. I have a question that I'm not sure of the answer in terms of who can avail themselves of the financing from IDA. Can public schools, for instance, a charter school, particularly one starting up maybe in an industrial part of Los Angeles, moving into, a building that wasn't intended for a school. And I know you have to make the case that, issuing bonds has to ultimately be for the public good, help to create jobs, but I would argue that educating kids or training the next workforce, which a lot of the charter schools have emphasis on, might fall under that category. Do you know the answer to that?
I don't. I know that certainly 501c3 educational organizations can take advantage of these programs. I'm not certain about charter schools. It's an interesting question. I'd like to look at that. There's a distinct nexus between the quality of education and the direction of education and the ability for companies to stay in a community and invest here. One of the first cuts of any eligibility that a company makes on a community is what? Their employees and the educational level and the technical know-how. So there's a direct nexus. We ought to explore it and move that to our advantage using 501s.
In my previous life, I was an investment banker, and I actually remember pitching the city's IDA for financing of school, but it was a private school, and we were told that was not something that would have been under the purview of the IDA. But it seems to me a charter, a public school, particularly those who are starting off, they have some financing issues in their early years. But certainly I think the case could be made for training the next workforce, helping the economic development of the situation where they're existing. So I would love for you to look into that and see if that might be one of the financing opportunities available for charter schools.
Thank you.
Congratulations, thanks for agreeing to serve.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning,
How are you? Nice to
Councilmember.
see you.
Good to see you.
And appreciate your willingness to serve on the IDA. And it is a critically important part of the city, although if you asked anyone out in our communities if they knew what this organization or this commission did, how it worked, and what the benefits are, and I think we can do a better job of ensuring that. And I apologize, I may not have heard your answer to some of the earlier questions. Based on your kind of initial review and going in, what are your priorities kind of that you'd like to see with the IDA?
Two priorities. One is exactly what you indicated, expanding the exposure of IDA to all other city departments and the private sector. There's just a major abyss here between what the IDA can do and the awareness of the IDA on the part of companies and nonprofits that can take advantage of it. So we have to find a way to do that. And then secondly, accelerating our ability to pursue and complete the bond financings that we do. Look, an IDA is like any other entity. It's only good if it's better than its competitors. And right now, there are other IDA authorities that our companies are going to or should go to because it takes us longer to process the same financing than those other IDAs can do, such as the state IDA. So let's get our processes in a position to at least be absolutely day-for-day competitive with every other IDA so that we can make sure that we're selecting and we're working with the companies that need our help here in Los Angeles and not forcing them to go elsewhere because we can't make their timing commitment. So that's my pledge. I'm going to find out why it takes us 4 weeks or 5 weeks longer to process the same $10 million bond that another IDA can process. There's no reason for that. Let's get on at least an even table, and then let's work on exposing the IDA so that it actually can do better.
Great. And I have appreciated most of the time your reports on being business friendly. And as you know, and we talked about the importance of sending that message, the IDA is part of that.
Yes.
We had last year, you know, a 27% increase in the number of businesses that were coming to the city of Los Angeles with the new business tax reform. And just yesterday in the Budget Committee, we adopted a extension of the 2-year no business tax for an additional 5 years, which will come to the City Council, which we think, again, is always sending that message that although there's room for improvement, we've made some major strides. And so look forward to your role on the IDA, but I think with the leadership of this council, we are sending that message that we are a more business-friendly city. Thank you. Larry, look forward. Thank you. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you spending the time to be on the authority.
Pleased to be here.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. Anybody else wishing to be heard? If not, it's been a very good discussion. Want to open the roll on the nomination, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Give a
very
round of
much.
applause to our new commissioner.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Before going on with item number 7, I have some introductions, colleagues, of some special visitors we have here, as well as I know Mr. Huizar wants to make some introductions as well. But I want to welcome from the U.S. Department of State, the Office of International Visitors. We have some folks from the International Visitor Leadership Program that are here in the first 2 rows of our council chambers, and I'd like to read their names. We have folks that are visiting from India, Israel, Kenya, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Sierra Leone, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, Tanzania, Tunisia, Turkey, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. First, from India, we have Mr. Aga Syed Ruhula. From Israel, Mr. Michael Ginker. From Kenya, Mr. Kwame Opio Owino. From Mexico, Ms. Juana Laura Perez Floriano. From Nepal, we have Mr. Pradeep Tapalia. From Nigeria, we have Mr. Godwin Emeka Onya. From Saudi Arabia, we have Ms. Fatin Yusuf Bundagji, excuse me. From Sierra Leone, we have Mr. Sar Yungay Briwa. From Slovak Republic, we have Mr. Matus Pozvans. We have from Slovenia, Mr. Frank Vovk. From Tanzania, we have Mr. Abbas Juma Muhunzi. From Tunisia, Mr. Mustafa Ben Lataif. From Turkey, Mr. Ahmed Misbah Demircin. From Uganda, Ms. Beatrice Nyakasiki Bienkia, excuse me, and from Zimbabwe, Mr. Aldolf Gusha. These are all local members of state, regional, local governments, and we want to welcome you to City Hall. Excuse me if I butchered any of the pronunciations of your name, but as a reflection of Los Angeles, we know that there are immigrants from each one of your countries that are living here in Los Angeles, and we're honored to have your presence. Colleagues, if you'd please join me in welcoming our distinguished visitors here to Council Chambers. And we encourage anybody to go introduce themselves as well, to say hello to them. And with that, I'd like to recognize Mr. Huizar for another introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge some CD14 students who are with us today and give them a shout out. We have 80 students here from Wilson High School. Will all the students from Wilson High School please stand up? We also have 40 students from Roosevelt High School. All the students from Roosevelt, please stand up. Could stand up and be acknowledged. These students are here today thanks to the CNN 2006 Election Express Yourself Tour, which is making a stop in Los Angeles. This tour is setting the stage for an energized campaign season by giving the public an opportunity to voice their views on politics. And I'm proud of these students here today who are expressing themselves, giving their input to making this city and this country a better place. I want to also thank CNN and Time Warner Cable for making this possible. Thank you so much, and welcome, students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huizar. We can now turn to the next agenda item, Ms. Clerk.
Next item, Mr. President, is
I'm
item...
sorry. Just one other, Mr. Reyes as well.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I just wanted to join my colleague in welcoming the students. Earlier we had the opportunity to welcome them to City Hall, but I just want to emphasize, I'm hoping others are listening who watch the council debate and discussion, that we have a group of students here who represent an area that, on a sad note, about 53% actually graduate from high school. On a positive note, you're here. And I'm hoping that being in these halls, for some of you, I know it's the first time, gives you the kind of impression that influences your ability to graduate, but more importantly, to share with your friends in class, in the hallways, and in the yard every time they choose not to do their homework. And if you see them going down the path where they're not going to graduate, you remind them that they have an opportunity to be a council member, be a senator, be a doctor, because they put the time and sacrifice into it. So I'm hoping we're looking at future voters, but more importantly, I'm hoping to see all of you graduate and hopefully bring a friend along. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okay, there's a request, if there's no objection on 13, we'll send that forthwith. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 7, and that was called Special for Cards from the Public.
Okay, I'd like to invite forward public speakers now. Duke Gallagher will be our first on this item, and then Jacques Massachi, and then Dirk de Greve. Welcome.
Good morning, council people. I think this is going to be a glorious day for us. My name is Duke Gallagher. I was born and raised in Hollywood. I went to school in Hollywood. I went to Blessed Sacrament, Hollywood High, and eventually UCLA. When I was growing up, it was a great place to live. We had the Pacific Electric. We'd go pretty much anywhere in Southern California for a nickel. We shopped, our Christmas shopping was at the Broadway Hollywood. And I even had a job, a nighttime job at NBC, which was at Sunset and Vine. And I don't know why the Historical Society didn't keep that building on its rolls. I used to, after football practice, walk down Sunset Boulevard and had a job in the basically mimeograph room. We used to do scripts for Jack Benny, Red Skelton, Fibber McGee and Molly, and such like that. I was off at about 9 o'clock in the evening. I'd walk to Hollywood Boulevard and hop on the bus to go to Hollywoodland and walk up the hill, because in those days you didn't ask your parents to come pick you up. Walk up the hill, and it was pretty safe. I did a couple of years in the service, and when I came back, things had changed considerably. But today, I think that is all being turned around. With the advent of the Kodak Theater at one end of Hollywood Boulevard, and the W Hotels on the other end, and soon to be on the south end of Vine Street, the new Empress Museum, I think things are going in a positive direction. Hollywood Boulevard is managed very well by the Hollywood Entertainment District. Santa Monica Boulevard has the Media District, but what has been sorely lacking is a BID in the Sunset and Vine corridor. But I hope today that will all be taken care of. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Duke. Jacques? Welcome, my
Mr.
friend.
President. My name is Jacques Masacci. I'm here on behalf of Diana Apartments. Diana Apartments is a low-income housing project in Hollywood that we manage, we own and manage. It's a 100% low-income housing. We've been contracted by HUD since 1978. And one of these buildings that we manage on Leland Way has been included in this BID. And within the same block, there is another residential project that's been excluded. That I voiced my concerns to the expediters in this, and also Josh, your representative. And they have told me that they're going to work with the CRA to see what they can do with this issue that we have. I am generally for this BID. I was one of the people that put the seed money for Media BID, and I was their board member for 5 years. And I think this BID is a very good idea. I just do not agree that they have included this low-income housing in the BID project. I have other properties that are also in this BID, which I have no problem paying their share. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacques. Appreciate it. Dirk? And then Ben Fruchter.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, Eric. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Central Hollywood Coalition in support of this business improvement district. Hollywood is vibrant. The headlines don't deny it. We see it every day. This is an example of how teamwork has come together and a community has organized itself behind an effort to improve itself. I'm here to speak on behalf of this effort and to thank everybody who has been part of this, City Clerk, City Attorney, Council, the Council Member Garcetti, our stakeholders in the community, and this is our second time around, and we're here to prevail and to continue with the growth in Hollywood. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Ben Fruchter? Ben? Oh, there you are, sorry.
Honorable Council, I want to mention a few issues that I have with this proposal. I'm a small property owner in that area, and I wanted to ask the following questions. First of all, we are located in the Hollywood Redevelopment District or area, and the CRA collects millions or billions of dollars in revenue from this area, and I wanted to know if it is determined that we need to spend money to fix things up or improve them, why isn't the CRA participating in this effort? Question number 2, I'm not aware of any notice that was given before I received the invitation for this hearing in front of the City Council. I don't understand why the small property owners were not involved in this process. I would have liked to be involved. It's kind of like, I feel like now I'm here at the 1 minute to 12, it's too late. And I don't understand how come there is no requirement for certain notification and due process when something like this comes along. Number three, I don't understand how the appraisal process was done and how the determination was made to distribute the costs the way they're distributed, specifically with respect to linear frontage on the major streets. For example, my property is a corner property. Part of the property is on Vine, but the other part is on a street called Afton, which is a residential street. I'm being charged for both sides of the property. Certainly, can I finish?
If you could just conclude.
I'll do it quickly. So first of all, that was my question. The issue with the distance of my property from the main center of activity, which is Sunset and Vine, that wasn't considered.
And Mr.
also,
Fruchter, I think if you can, we can have someone from Mr. Garcetti's office talk to you about how those numbers are delineated and selected. If I could just ask you to conclude.
A final statement. I'm respectfully requesting that the council postpone a vote on this matter to allow the property owners more time to express their concern to the city officials and achieve a better breakdown of costs between the large property owners and developers and the small property owners like myself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Laron Gubler, followed by Donald Duckworth.
Good morning, council members. I'm Laron Gubler, President and CEO of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the creation of the first bid in Hollywood, the Hollywood Entertainment District, which was an effort that was led by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. Now, in light of all the progress we've made in Hollywood in the last 10 years, it's often easy to forget just how bad it was 10 years ago. But at that time, we had serious problems and people were writing off Hollywood. And the Chamber created that first bid because it was necessary for the property owners to step up to the plate to show that they were willing to invest in the future of their community. The Hollywood Entertainment District was wildly successful. In 3 months' time, crime dropped 50% in the district, and they made considerable progress in cleaning up that whole district, so much so that the district was tripled in size and has been overwhelmingly renewed twice by the property owners. I think that signifies the possibilities that business improvement districts have. We're very supportive of additional districts in Hollywood. The Sunset Vine area is an area that has many of the same problems that were faced on Hollywood Boulevard. We're enthusiastic about this formation of this district. The people who've been working on it have been working for years to get to this point. We commend them and urge the City Council to give final approval of it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Duckworth.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Donald Duckworth. My firm prepared the Management District Plan and Engineers Report for this bid. We are very pleased to be able to stand here today and to report to you that we enjoyed over 60% petition support from, as weighted by the amount of the assessment, from property owners within our district, and we look forward to a similarly weighty vote of support as the ballots are counted after this hearing. We have met with Mr. Mastucci. We empathize and understand and want to work with him and support his desire to promote income-restricted housing. We think it's important, and we've committed to doing that. I'm here to answer any questions if that would be helpful for the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now closed. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you to all the members of the community who are here, and Jacques will absolutely look at that, and we appreciate you bringing that forward to us, and I know you've been a real leader of the media bid when that came about the first time. And colleagues, this represents the fourth bid in the Hollywood area, and the Chamber of Commerce deserves credit for each one of those four. We've been proud to work on two of the new ones, the East Hollywood bid and now the Sunset and Vine bid, and it certainly has been a rocky road. All of the veterans that are here today to speak about it, we had to redo the ballots based on the initial way that the city clerk's office had put that forward. We worked that formula in a way that was seen as more fair, and it certainly has been a labor of love that the community has put forward, knowing that if we could pull this off, that we could do for Sunset Boulevard arguably a place as famous as Hollywood Boulevard, we could do for that what we are able to do in Hollywood Boulevard. I want to thank the Folbs as well, who have been a very important part of this and have offered space for the bid should this go through. But if you look right now between the 101 freeway and westward down to Highland, that is really one of the ripest places in the city right now for development. The great news of CNN staying in Hollywood and that article that was in the LA Times, how more and more of the studios and businesses are looking to stay and many of them looking to locate to Hollywood, is really great news, because when we heard the great stories about where we once were that Duke referred to, I think we will rebuild a new Hollywood that mirrors very much an old Hollywood, where it isn't just a museum of the past, but very much a living place of the present as well. Bids have shown in Hollywood that they can work and do work in a way that doesn't replace city services, and it's something I always say that it's my promise as the city representative that we don't see this bid as something that displaces what we should be already doing. It is to supplement that. And in fact, if anything, we've been able to strengthen the public safety presence, the infrastructure, cameras, police officers. It's helped drive crime down by almost 2/3 in Hollywood in terms of violent crime. And that infrastructure that's in place of the greatest creative capital and entrepreneurs anywhere in the world in Hollywood will certainly do well with this bid. So it has my whole full-hearted support. I know that Josh Kamensky deserves great thanks for his work on this over many, many years, as well as Baitzar Tomasian, my deputy in Hollywood. And I want to thank the business community for stepping up on this and being a partner with the public sector as well to making sure that Hollywood is something we can all be proud of again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Hahn.
I just wanted to say congratulations, and this is one that I've been keeping my eye on, because there's a couple of Pedro connections here. Certainly Laron Gubler, who was down in San Pedro with the chamber many years ago, and now our chamber and our bid have hired Donald Duckworth to accomplish the same sort of thing in San Pedro. So now that you've successfully accomplished this, start working on mine. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. With that, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Congratulations. Let's send that forthwith, please, to the mayor, if there's no objection.
Actually, Mr. President, there will be the public announcement and the ballot tabulation tomorrow.
Oh, that's just for the public hearing. I'm sorry. Tomorrow is the official vote. That was for the public hearing. So we will hold that, and that will come back to us tomorrow in council. Thank you. Next item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment to welcome the Girl Scouts Troop 390 from Santa Clarita. Welcome to City Hall. Hope you enjoy this historic building. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Those motions will be posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused Tuesday, November 21st for city business that meets council policy.
Okay, that excuse will be granted.
Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused Tuesday, November 7th and Wednesday, October 25th to leave at 11:45, and those both meet council policy.
Okay, those are approved.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused Tuesday, October 17th to leave at noon for city business. A motion is required.
Okay, how many members do we have that day? And just as a reminder, colleagues, in October, because we have some council members who will be accompanying the mayor on his trip to Asia, we are at 10 and 11 many days, so if people can try to be as timely as possible in those meetings to ensure that we have a quorum. On the 7th, our attendance?
Oh, actually, it's the 17th, and on the 17th, you'll have 11 after Councilmember Perry leaves.
I'll move that. Mr. Reyes will second. If there's no objection, that excuse will be granted.
And Councilmember Zine requests to be excused Friday, October 6th to arrive at 10:30, and October 10th, 11th, 13th, 17th, and 20th. Those are all for city business, and a motion is required on the 13th.
Okay, Mr. Zine moves, Mr. Wesson seconds, if there's no objection.
I'm sorry, that is for Mr. Zine.
Oh, okay. He can move for himself. It's all right. If there's no objection, Mr. Zine excusing himself, he is excused.
And that clears the desk, Mr. President.
All right. I wanted to read into the record also, just for the record, Naomi Green was here on public comment, just wanted that name to be read into the record. And as I said earlier, Bruce Darien had filled out a card but was not in Van Nuys anymore at the time of public comment. Any announcements, colleagues? Mr. Reyes.
Yes, I just wanted to stand and acknowledge and give the Dodgers the recognition they deserve. It's Game 1 tomorrow against the Mets. This is a team that few people had any real hope that get this far. They've done it again. Ever since Frank McCourt came in with his team, they lifted the Dodgers to a whole new level. So not only do they have a beautiful stadium that they're renovating, they have a fantastic team, young talent coming up from the farm, and now they're doing what they're doing today. So congratulations, Dodgers. Congrats to the McCourts and the whole team and fans. Let's get behind our Dodgers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Reyes. And I think we've had one victory in the postseason since 1988, so we're looking to at least quadruple, quintuple that. Absolutely. We've been a dry city for a long time, but it's our time. Mr. Rosendahl.
My position on that is when you go to the ball game and you're not, it gets boring or something, go to this voter guide. It's huge this time, Mr. President. It requires more homework than most of us will ever do. There isn't enough local television that will focus on these measures, but it's a big deal and it's come into everybody's mail right now. So I say to the viewers out there, start reading it, folks. It's a lot to do, and make sure you go vote. Thanks.
And I know that's available at the Secretary of State's website, and there's smartvoter.org, which is a great a nonprofit website the League of Women Voters has as well. Yes, Mr. Reyes.
I know I'm going to roll here, but I couldn't pass this up. We have Ron Curry with us. Ron.
All right, Ron.
Come on,
welcome
Ron.
back.
Ron Curry used to be the gentleman that secured our environment here. Stepping up, he retired 2 years. Here over 10, 15, I won't date that, Ron, but welcome back. It's good to see you, Ron.
That is quite a uniform you're wearing these days, Mr. Curry. The uniform of relaxation. Mr. Parks, and then Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Have several 8th District announcements that the Crenshaw Chamber is having their monthly caregiver support group meeting on Wednesday, October 18th at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall Community Room. We also announced that the Rainbow Push Organization Business Symposium Seminar is scheduled for October the 10th, 10 a.m. to 2:30 at the Grand Reserve Room at Staples Center. The Leimert Park Homeowners Association will be having its monthly meeting Saturday, October 7th at Tom Bradley Elementary School in the auditorium, 10 a.m. to 12:30. And the Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber will have its open board meeting Tuesday, October 10th, and that will be at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Shopping Center.
Thank you very much. Other announcements, Mr. Parks?
Yes. My last one. Planning Department is going to have an open public hearing regarding general plan amendments for the South and Southeast Los Angeles Community Plan, and that's scheduled for Friday, October 6th, 9 a.m. At the City Hall, 10th floor.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, I'd just like to make an announcement. This morning, we had 2 press conferences, one at the brand-new Arleta High School, which is the first day of school, and also the Panorama City High School in the San Fernando Valley. And I just wanted to remind Angelenos that there's a lot of building of schools going on right now. Please understand that the dust and the commotion is all well worth it. Remember, when we build a school, those schools are there for decades and decades to come. Most of us who went to school, whatever part of the city we come from, those schools were probably built 40 or maybe even 50 years ago. Wendy School was the last high school built before this new round of new schools being built. So I just wanted to congratulate the community of Arleta and the community of Panorama City. They now have a public high school where they never had one before. Arleta never had a public high school, and Panorama City never had a public high school, and now they do. So congratulations to the school district, the taxpayers, and most of all, the children.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Any other announcements? If not, are there any adjourning motions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Grohan, Weezer, Parks, Reyes.
I'm sorry, I said it. Okay, sorry, we do have one adjourning motion. We have not yet adjourned. If I can please ask everybody to rise in council chambers and recognize Ms. Hahn for an adjourning motion.
Sorry. Colleagues, I'd like us to adjourn today in the memory of Rebecca Laura Hamilton, who is the mother of a good friend of mine, high school classmate, Ernie Hamilton. You've seen him come down here many times. He's a quadriplegic who is a commissioner for the LA County Disability Commission. She was a resident of Los Angeles for 52 years, and she worked for the county as a medical and legal stenographer while raising her only child, Ernest, again, who's been my good friend since we attended Lutheran High School together. She will be survived by Ernest, and she will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Any other adjourning motions? If not, we call the roll, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody.